No opening analogy for this one. Just a standard mailbag edition here as we're, 5-6 days away from the start of the NBA season. I'm really excited for this season, not just for the Warriors, just for where the league is at. So I thought we'd do a mailbag episode. I'll try to do these periodically. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subs, y'all. Been doing this 7-8 years, trying to do it the right way, trying to do it with integrity and providing something to the community. And so if you haven't already, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you're not a fan of the Warriors, I am going to provide some around the league coverage of more teams. And I'm going to make it a point to, in the Warriors matchup, talk about the opponents as well. So that way I'm just covering more of the league. But the support has been tremendous. And as always, the best way to support me is on Patreon, where, we can have a little more back and forth. I'm more accessible. I try to read the comments here, but I can't get too deep into them because you got to protect yourself. But yeah, we'll start off because Orion, patron, DM'd me and was like, hey, I'm not sure where to put this, but next time you have a mailbag, I got a question for you. I was like, let's do a mailbag here as the season approaches. So the first question here, Kuminga for Mobley, who says no? I'm not advocating for the trade, but I think it has some interesting angles, and I'm curious your take on it. I think right now, the Cavs say no, right? I think right now, Evan Mobley is viewed as the better player and the better asset, right? He's still viewed as a franchise center, a franchise big man. And what have we heard from every NBA team pretty much this preseason? We want to shoot more threes. And so to have a five-man, a center, and Evan Mobley who can guard the three-point line is crucial to the way the game is being played. I do think it's interesting that now that there is this new big men are coming back in a way, right? There's a lot of big men around the league, and I think it's going to continue to go that way. Mobley, as good as he is, he might be the best jump shot contesting big man in the league. Him or AD, maybe. Well, I guess Wemby would have something to say about that, but there's a handful of them. I'm not sure how he guards. Could you put him on Embiid? Can you put him on some of these bruising centers, Jokic? I don't even know if you could try that matchup because he's so slight, right? But his defensive instincts and ability to distance manage and use his length, Kuminga will never be the defender Mobley is. That's just the reality of it. Now, Mobley will never have the juice that Kuminga has. And you say, well, that's an arbitrary. What does that mean? Like Kuminga, I think what has so much of Dub Nation excited about his potential are the things you can't teach. And you see his explosiveness, his strength, right? But his mentality, his natural aggression to just keep going, and his motor, right? You can't teach that stuff. And that's where I'd favor Kuminga just in talking about ceiling-wise. I think Kuminga's ceiling, it's offensively where Mobley's is defensively, right? And that's what's exciting with when you talk Kuminga too, is a lot of guys, like I use the term mental stamina. You use it with Anthony Davis, who looked like, I don't know, last night, right? What if JJ Redick becomes known for unlocking MVP AD? That's a story for another time. But Kuminga has the competitive stamina, it seems like, to carry. Like, if you keep feeding Kuminga the ball, he's going to keep attacking. He's not going to waver. Mobley he doesn't seem to have that offensively. Now, Donovan Mitchell and Garland certainly aren't helping his cause offensively as far as just getting temps up. And he showed something late last year. He's starting to shoot the three. But yeah, right now, I think that Mobley's viewed at, we can have this conversation in January, right? And maybe things change. But I understand the thought of, if Cleveland is going to go away from the Twin Towers, I do think it'd be Jared Allen that's up out of there. And you move Mobley to the 5, and Jared Allen would be the guy on the block, not Evan Mobley. It would take a king's ransom to get Evan Mobley, right? It would take all your draft picks and all your young players. To me, it would cost more to get Mobley than it did for Markkanen, or it should. But we know Ainge, I don't know. All right, let's move on to the next one here. How you feel about this trade? Too much for Ingram. I know you're low on him. It's Moody Wiggins and Looney in a 3-teamer here. Ayton going to the New Orleans does need a center. What when we talking hypothetical trades, and I don't want to do too many of these. It's too early in the season to do these, but I know that that's what people have on their minds, because we probably do need to make a move. But I try to operate from what we know about the organization, right? And you heard Kawakami and you heard Anthony Slater both say this summer, like, Ingram's not a Warriors guy. The Warriors don't like Ingram, right? And then you follow the breadcrumbs of Steve Kerr benching him in the FIBA games last summer. And it's like, all right, so I don't play with the idea of Ingram because it just doesn't seem like, from what we know. However, we do know that teams will bluff, right, when they want to drop the value or act like they're not interested. But in this case, I don't think it's a bluff. I think if the Warriors traded for Brandon Ingram, something went drastically wrong. And there was some sort of, I don't want to say panic, but, there was a huge pivot, right? Where does Sabrina rank in the league? That step back was all-time crazy. And I'm going to put up y'all's names and handles for the questions, but I'm not going to try to say them because I butcher them, especially Twitter handles. But I appreciate all the questions. If I didn't get to yours, it was probably tried to answer it in another question, right? Consolidated. But we'll do this throughout the season. Listen, I can't sit here and say, oh, I've been watching since, Sheryl Swoop. Like, I'm relatively new to watching the W and just getting ready to cover the Valkyrie. I put her right behind Caitlin Clark when we're talking about like true on-ball point guards, because I think a lot of the guards are more of two guards, right? Plum, McBride, Mayberry. It's debatable, but I put CC and Sabrina in their own tier, mainly because of their ability to shoot off the dribble from like 30 feet. It puts so much pressure on the bigs to come up above the three-point line that it just puts them in another category. I had spoken a little bit about, I think Caitlin is a better athlete, right? And just a little more naturally strong, but you saw Sabrina work on her body, get stronger. And that's tough to, it's almost like a Steph KD with her and Stewie, right? And it's like to facilitate, get Jonquil her shots, Stewie's dominating the game, and then to tip both those daggers, because it wasn't just one. There was the one on the wing too, right? To be able to just go, okay, it's my turn. And I thought that play was going to be Stewie at the nail to the sweet spot. That's the highest percentage shot by the analytics, like get Stewie the ball at the nail. But from what I saw, that was a clear out. I know that Fee was on Stewie, but that looked like a clear out and go to work. And those are the best shots for shooters when there's no other plan B. It's like, I'm just getting to this shot. But I put her right below CC, but both of them in their own tiers. And I think that's coming. When you see Paige, you see Juju. They don't necessarily have that range, but I think this new wave of W guard that's coming makes it all the more important that the bigs are more athletic. And you look at an Angel Reese, you look at a Cameron Brink, there's a handful of them around the league, but for the most part, these bigs, they're on the block, right? They don't want to come out above the three-point line. And so you're going to need modern bigs to match these new modern guards. But as far as point guards in the dub, I love Chelsea Gray. Her body is betraying her, but she is one of the best passers I've ever seen. I like Mayberry. She's a dog, right? And Plum, as annoying as she can be, I respect her motor. I think she's one of those, like Pods, her energy raises the floor of energy for her team every time she's out on the floor. First signs of Curry's decline this year. All the off-ball movement at this age, legs going to be gone by the fourth quarter. I think where we've seen Steph age most in the last couple years is he takes more plays off defensively. Like, we know he's not GP2 on the ball or anything like that, right? But there are more plays night to night where it's just a lackadaisical closeout, or he just can't find the energy in his legs to make a good closeout or rotation, and he just puts his hands up like, my bad, right? But I think it's interesting. This is an important subject because we're so focused on the end of the rotation right now, rightfully so, because there's a lot of unknown and confusion and debate, right? But ultimately, this new depth the most important thing is to be able to pay Steph Curry, right? And Draymond Green to an extent as well. Steph played 32 minutes last season, right? Could you get it under 30? I know he doesn't want it under 30. Draymond was at 27 minutes. Could you get it to 25, 24 minutes? Draymond, I think he might be all right playing a little less. You know what I'm saying? Just playing when it matters. But, more realistically, I think what we're looking for with this depth in this scenario, I got a ton of rotation questions that I frankly don't have an answer to yet. You know what I mean? None of us do. But can there be more nights where Steph checks out midway through the third quarter, Buddy goes on a bender, and we don't see Steph the rest of the game? Can he have those nights? Let me shush my pup up. Jordan. Hey, pup. Can't start snoring during the video, right? But those nights, you remember those in the prime, in the true death lineup nights where come out, bum rush a team in the third, and then you wouldn't see Steph the rest of the game. I'm not saying it's going to happen often, but with the depth, if you have a third quarter where Lindy Waters is and he hits 4 threes, and we know what Buddy can do, can we put teams away at times? Because we heard the stats so much last year. Clutch games. The Warriors led the league in clutch games. Those are the taxing minutes, right? And so I don't even know if it's going to be the actual average of minutes. Can there be more nights where Draymond and Steph finish the game watching from the bench and our depth closes the deal? I think that's way more important than who it is doing it, as opposed to can they do it? Can they preserve Steph for the long run? Could Moody playing possibly hurt the Warriors? We know, given the right opportunity, Moody would be a great piece for our team. But as we know, Lacob has a hard time trading valuable assets. In saying this, if by the trade deadline there's a good move to make, could Lacob hesitate? I think Joe has learned from the Wiseman situation, one. And I think that anybody not named Steph Curry could be made available, given the right price. Right, I don't think there's going to be a hesitation. I think if you read between the lines, they're big game hunting. They're big game hunting. Again, who is it? There's these fringe now. Could Moody be a sticking point in a not a blockbuster deal, or even a blockbuster? I think if there was a sticking point, it's much more likely Pods or Kuminga. So I'm not trying to diss Mood or anything like that, but We've seen the opportunities he's gotten. So no, I don't think Moody's going to be a sticking point in any potential deal. Unc, Moody looked really good this preseason. Shots been here and there, but why does it always seem like he's always the odd man out based on what Kerr said post-game interview? He looks like a 17-point per game player on a bad team. Why not make him the backup 2 or 3 over GP? And shout out to whoever brought this up in the YouTube comments the other day. They were like, out, man, it's not just GP2, right? Like, if you do the math, like, there's going to be a couple guys that are out. Like, how many guys is he going to play? And I think the issue is, you say, okay, Melton is clearly the better defender, right? Pods has a way better floor game, like rebounding, bringing the ball up, passing, right? And so do you say Moody's the better scorer of the three? If you're talking about, because it's not just GP2, it's Melton and Pods that he's got to beat out for minutes as well. And they both have more of a defined skill set, right? And so what I'll say is Moody probably gets to the line better than both of them, So it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. He's going to have to seize his opportunity. I think that the defense is going to have to hold up in order for him to get the opportunity that we want him to get. That brings me to the sponsor, Underdog. We're smack dab in the middle of Boosttober. They've been running crazy boosts with the NFL picks, but we're under a week away from the NBA. Opening week of the NBA, look for a ton of NBA specials and free picks that week. If you haven't signed up for Underdog already, use my code Alchemy. You can get a bonus up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now, I was looking for tonight's Warriors-Lakers final preseason game. It's not up there, but if it does get put up, I love Kuminga's points. Did you see the point totals on a lot of teams' final preseason game was last night, right? Or towards the end of this preseason. Dalton Connect, 35 points. Like, go around and look at some of the young players' point totals from last night, because towards the end of preseason, as the vets sit and they're like, all right, like, again, we're ready now. The young guys are like, let me get a big stat line on the bottom of ESPN, right? And so I love Kuminga's points higher, so long as they're not crazy. Again, I haven't seen the number, but anything under 20, I'm looking for that one tonight. But again, stay tuned for Underdog picks. We're going to be playing all week. It's a great supporter of the channel, and it helps support me. All right, let's move on to the next question. Outside of the Warriors, who are a couple of the most fun teams to watch? Maybe I didn't read this question properly, right? Fun teams, I think, remain to be seen, but fun is subjective, right? And for me, I pay attention to, one, teams with a lot of young players and a lot of unknowns, kind of teams that are at a pivotal point, as well as potential trade partners for the Warriors. And I was watching Houston. Who were they playing the other night? I can't even remember. I was so focused on their roster. But I talked a little bit about it this summer. I'm really curious to see this Jalen Green or Şengün thing. Can it be both of them? Are they going to choose a style of play? And it just feels like they've got to choose one or the other guy, right? Reed Shepherd is a fun watch, right? It's like, look at this white boy, man. He's going crazy. Like, he's a fun watch. Jabari Smith is a player I like very much. And so I'm very curious to see what direction this Rockets team goes. And I have my eye on them if they do decide to pivot, because there's a lot of players that I'm intrigued with for the Warriors roster. In the East, the same would be said about Atlanta. I tweeted it out a week or two ago. I was like, Atlanta, you want to talk about Warrior types, like meaning players that the Warriors like their system. The Atlanta's roster is filled with them, like up and down. Bogdanovich, Okongwu, Hunter, Johnson. I know they're not going to trade. Risache he's looking good, man. Risache, I know it was like, who is this dude when he got picked first? He's been impressive, so I'm curious about them. Was there another team? Yeah, those are the two that I have circled right now, and it'll remain to be seen. I'm curious about the Pelicans and what that looks like. Next up, can this team go far even if we don't have a true number two? More of a committee. I think with the new CBA, that this is going to be the new blueprint. It's going to be strength in numbers and by depth, rather than the super teams we've seen being trying to be built over the last decade, right? That said, so I don't think we necessarily need a true number two star scorer. I think we need another big body, and that's the consensus, right? How good does that big body need to be? We've talked about Valanciunas. I think we have to see. That's the problem with kind of the trade questions right now. You got to see the first 20 games and then reevaluate and see, like, okay, that's not working out over there. He might be made available, or this is what we didn't. There's always stuff that you can't anticipate yet, right? Not NBA related. Favorite movie and music album? I'm a Denzel guy. So I'm going to give you two. Remember the Titans and Training Day. If I'm looking for something light comedy, you can't go wrong with Will Ferrell or Adam Sandler. I'm immature. Like, a good fart joke gets me every time. I'm immature. That's my bag. As far as music goes, music is so defined, I think, by our teenage years, right? In like our high school years. I was born in 1983. So in 1995, 1996, I was 12, 13 years old at the peak of gangster rap, right? I grew up in the peak of gangster rap. And so I'm going to go All Eyes on Me double disc. Like, if I had to choose one, and if we want to go a little more modern, give me early Kanye. Give me College Dropout. That's my answer for that one. Who is your favorite? Who is your all-time Warrior now that Klay is gone? It's Klay. It hasn't changed. You can't change what he did, right? And pre-injury, Klay Thompson still doesn't get the credit he deserves. He really doesn't. Like, guard the other team's best player, run off screens all night, average 20 at 40% from behind the arc, and don't bat an eye about living under Steph's shadow or wanting any attention or any look at me. I just, ride my bike and my boats around town, right? Like that era of Klay, I mean, that's just my favorite type of player right there, right? No nonsense, hard nose, physical, I don't, that's my answer for you. It hasn't changed. He'll forever have that, right? And so as frustrated as we were with Klay, and people, people click onto a video and they don't have the full context of at least my take. Why would they, right? But I'm not hating on Klay, man. I'm not rooting against Klay, but I'm here to give my takes on it, right? If Kerr had to have an 8-man rotation, who would you have in it? The depth is our strength, but man, I'm afraid it could screw this team up more than help. That's my fear, at least. It is. That's why it's such a hot button topic, right? So Steph, Draymond, Wiggs, Kuminga, Trace. You got it's Melton, Buddy, and Slow-Mo, right? If you're talking the three off the bench, and that's not a diss to Pods or Moody. The issue is, as much as it would make Nelly proud, you can't just bring all guards off the bench, right? Like Slow-Mo has to play, right? Slow-Mo's playing. We're all in agreement. So that's one spot off the bench, right? Buddy's going to play. We all agree, like he is going to play the Steph role in the system. So that's two. So there's really only one more, and Melton was the big money signing. So, I mean, that's it is a predicament, right? But that's what I would say. Like right now, today, the three off the bench would be Melton, Slow-Mo, and Buddy to start. Now, I think that Wiggins and Kuminga, I hate this term. Someone give me a better term for this, but they're going to have a short leash, right? Like that's what it's going to be. And probably rightfully so, at least with Wiggins. I don't know. But I would think that that's how I see it being played out. But we know that Kerr is so situational, right? In the matchups. And so I think the key more so is going to be Pods, Moody, Lindy Waters. These guys are going to have to stay ready. Like there's going to be nights where they don't play as much. Can they stay engaged and ready to play? I don't think Pods and Moody will have a problem with it. I don't, they're not going to like it, but judging from the character that they've shown us thus far, I think they're going to be dialed in, right? I think the chemistry is good enough to where they will be ready to go. Now, rhythm is a different thing, especially for Moody. Pods, he has such a diverse floor game. He doesn't necessarily need to be in a rhythm to have an impact. He could not play the entire game, come in the fourth quarter and play well probably. To ask Moody to do that, I think is a different thing as a scorer. But yeah, man, I'm excited for the season. I'm optimistic for the season. I think there's a lot of good storylines, and I think the Warriors are in a good spot, and they have the assets to pounce on a big move, right? But I also think, as currently constructed, they have the depth. When you combine it with the chemistry and then the context of the disappointment of the last few seasons, I think that they're in a place to overachieve and be greater than the sum of their parts. But as we know, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? There's going to be some luck involved, and you have to have health, especially in this Western Conference. But yeah, that'll do it for this first mailbag edition. Continue to check for the updates. I'll probably hop back on here after the final preseason game tomorrow with some more thoughts. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.